Well, welcome back to the podcast. Today I have Dr. Tom Germino from Germino Dental, I think dentistry. You'll correct me in a moment, but I appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast to talk about, dental care and, some of the problems that people run into and some solutions to it. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you.
Yep. Hey, Dr. Tom, can you give our audience a little background about what you're doing? I think your son's in the practice now, and then, talk a little bit about the practice.
Okay, so I graduated from Loyola 46 years ago, and I started my own practice, and I also worked in a couple of other offices part-time. And then as the practice grew, I was able to devote more time to my office. And then 15 years ago, my son graduated from Marquette Dental School and joined me. And then last year, we had a longtime assistant who we encouraged to go to dental school, and so she joined us. So now there's three of us here. So that's kind of a quick nutshell.
Yeah.
The dental.
So you've been in Orland the whole time?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. And so what I want to dive into a little bit is over the years of practice that you've been in, obviously families keep running. They're always busy eating sandwiches as they run out the door. But, what are some of, some mistakes or common problems that most families run into, especially with their kids, that you see that are simple things that could be corrected at home?
Okay. Well, some of this is, I think, changed over the years. There seems to be better education. Initial years, we saw a lot of young moms giving juice in the bottles for bedtime, or even milk at bedtime. And so you would get rampant decay, even at a very, very young age. I think there's a lot more education now, much more awareness, and you really see that like we used to see. So I think there's, at least here, there seems to be a greater awareness of good dental health for home. So we don't see the same extent that we used to see.
So and now with adults, have you seen some common issues where because adults get busy too, as they not only just raising kids and they're busy with that life, but even when the kids are gone, like have you noticed any common practices that have changed over the years as well for the adults?
Um, Again, I think part of it is, I think that just in general, there's better education. So we do see the seniors, especially, once you start getting dry mouth, some of the medications patients are on, you get dry mouth. And so then it opens up another whole situation with decay. And there's a lot of root where the roots become exposed, so you get the sensitivity. So I think that's also, part and parcel of an aging population. And most of the patients that we see, they seem to be pretty cognizant of good hygiene. So it's
At least, well, yeah, at least they're working in the right direction, and I'm curious, and I respect your wisdom for the number of years you've been in the industry. So, have you noticed like the industry as a whole have changed practices back when you first started practicing to what it is now, or has it always been consistent, like the education from even the ADA and other common practices where they're trying to promote?
Good question. There's a lot of ramifications to that one.
Yeah.
I think media and Hollywood have put a big emphasis on smiles. And so I think the corollary of that is, if I want a nice smile, what do I have to do to get it? And if I have it, how do I keep it? And I think so in that case, I think there's much more awareness. Now, from a practical standpoint, when I started practicing 46 years ago, the only fillings that were white were in the front teeth. Everything else was either silver or gold. So I don't think I've placed a silver filling in probably 30 years. So there's been an evolution in technology, an evolution in materials, an evolution in even what the patients demand.
Now, have you found that some dentists in practice still gravitate towards the silver fillings versus the white ones?
They haven't seen it. I won't say there aren't some out there, but I haven't seen it. Now, I mean, there's also degrees of technology. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like for instance, we have digital scans in the mouths so we can check, and we have a record. We have a cat scan so we can do a 3D of the jaw. You know, we have Cyrex so you can mill a crown at the same appointment. So the technology has evolved. Now, I would assume most of my colleagues have evolved with it, you know, but
Got it.
I have anyone doing silver
Oh,
fillings.
yeah. I was curious because yeah, it seemed that I was hearing that, but I wasn't sure, if there was any truth to that, and I appreciate you sharing that. Um, what are, some practices that like you promote to your families that come into the practice and say, hey, you should be, brushing, 5 times a day, 3 times a day, or two, and flossing. So, what are some of the common practices that you share with them on a regular basis?
Um, Obviously, most of it, I'll be honest with you, is done via the hygienists.
Mm-hmm.
They do. They have the most interaction during a preventive appointment, so they're the ones who I actually have to give credit to is doing the primary education. Our job is kind of reinforce what they said. Okay.
Sure.
Generally, we encourage the patients to, brush obviously after eating. If you're more prone to decay, then you might want to, be very mindful if you have anything that's got carbohydrates in it. Doesn't necessarily have to be sugar, to make sure you remove it as soon as you can. And so, I think also now there's a lot more patients who have options. Before, when I first got out of practice, it was all the floss and a big long string. And now you have all these other items that are probably easier for patients to use, and therefore they're more apt to use them, including water picks and the floss that are on the little sticks. And all that is much more common and I think much more prevalent.
So, what are your thoughts on other things like at home, like mouthwash, and yeah, we'll get the teeth whitening here in a second, though.
Okay. The mouthwash, that's always a tough issue because some of the mouthwashes, all they do is give you a clean taste in your mouth, and they're really not effective in controlling like decay or periodontal disease.
Mhm.
Uh, and some of the patients have an attitude where if it's got alcohol in it, they don't want to use it for many times for very good reasons.
Sure.
Listerine, of course, because of the oils, has got a very strong taste. So sometimes that is not as popular. Um, we have probably more in the past recommend fluoride, some of the fluoride mouthwashes, and we still recommend it for patients who have a high incidence of caries. But with the fluoridated water, we just encourage people, if you're prone to decay, don't just use bottled water because there's no
Mhm.
flow. So
Got it. Yeah, I assume there's studies that say that fluoride in water actually does help the teeth. Is that
there,
correct?
there is actually not a single study that I'm aware of refute,
Oh,
despite what some people may be saying in Washington. I think the argument there is that it can be a problem in high doses, but the doses that we are exposed to is minimal. So it's really
hmm, yeah. So, from the world of Dr. Tom, so what is your opinion? I guess you could give your own personal or professional opinion on teeth whitening. I know there's a lot of at home products, and I've heard some negative reviews on that. But have you noticed that? Because I think there's an influx of people trying to white to get that smile going. And so, what's your take on all that?
um, I think some of the items that are being promoted are probably not nearly as effective as the advertisements would have you believe. Um,
Hmm.
you're not going to get dramatic differences in your the whiteness of your teeth by using kind of dentifrice. It
Hmm.
happen.
Hmm.
You know, Crest white strips can be effective. The problem is they don't stay on. Um, they cover the gums and more than just the teeth. And they're actually fairly expensive for the product. So I think something like that, we don't really promote it. If someone does
Yeah.
it, their business.
Yeah.
Uh, We do in-office whitening, but we do promote though that custom trays, because that's pretty cost effective. The trays are not expensive. You can buy additional bleaching agent, and you can do it at home, and it's much more cost effective than in-office treatments. We do them, but if you need to touch it up, you have a big occasion, you can just get additional bleach. So it's a little more effective. Some of the over-counters, I think, are vastly over-promoted without really an effective treatment.
Interesting. Yeah, and I've heard both, positive and negative, but the go-to I've heard over the years is just go to your dentist and do it the right way, and don't worry about stuff at home because the dental practice is going to guide you in the right direction based on the individual circumstances.
Well, it's also going to be a higher percentage of whitening agent
Oh.
because basically like a prescription. You have
Mm-hmm.
to get and get it.
Mm-hmm.
Get over the counter, they lessen how much whitening you can actually have because there's a question of ingestion and everything else. So,
Mm-hmm.
so there's a big difference in the efficiency of over the counter versus what can be dispensed to an office.
Got it. Yeah. And do you see an increase of requests for teeth whitening?
I would say it goes in waves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Obviously much more than 46 years ago. I mean, then it was
Yes.
distant, but it seems to go into waves. Is there big events coming up? Is there Christmas? Is there, a wedding? Am I going to be in a bridal party? Do I have a reunion? Those kind of seems to trigger, I got to get something done. I mean, there are who are always
Sure.
cognizant of it and always working on
Sure.
it. It seems to go in waves.
Got it. And so I assume it doesn't stay, right? So it's not this one and done thing. It usually comes back to stains.
Well, what happens is it just kind of removes what's on the surface. And so the
Ah.
same that caused it to get there is going to be back. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I always tell patients after you do it, don't have red wine, and follow up with the joke, well, if you use white wine, it'll take it out. Yeah,
Yes. Right.
doesn't. You
Yeah,
understand?
right. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. We'll bring a little humor to some of the changes, but yeah, that's interesting. And so I'm curious. So you've been in practice 46 years now. Is that about, or you graduated 46 years ago?
Practice 46 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm curious, like you've been in Orland the whole time, like how just reflect a little bit on how's the practice, today versus back then, just from a growth perspective, the families that come and go, the generations that you've probably seen over the years, and I'd be curious to hear a little bit about your thoughts on that.
Okay. Well, I started and I had one chair. I had no staff. Okay. So my wife, when she came home, would come from work. She would occasionally be at the front desk and answer the phone, but she had to take the train in from the city.
Oh.
So that went for a while. So it's a slow growth process. And then I was fortunate enough where the practice grew. And then after 7 years, we moved into where we are now, where we have 5 chairs. And, the gratifying part is I have patients who I started 46 years ago. And now I'm seeing that, they're still with us. I'm seeing them. I'm seeing their kids. I'm seeing their grandkids. And then we have people who've moved away and still come back. So it's very gratifying that they have the confidence in us and our staff to continue to come.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure that's awesome. Awesome feeling, and it's just really cool to see multiple generations coming in your office. But speaking of multiple generations, what was it like when your son decided that he was going to be a dentist as well, or is it always in the making because the kitchen table when they were growing up, that was the topic?
The interesting thing is he actually didn't really think about being a dentist until senior year in high school.
Interesting.
Before that, he was looking at other career options. And, I think then for whatever reason, and I've never pried that much as to suddenly why do you know. But
Yeah.
um, it was interesting though when I read after he got in Marquette's dental scholars program, which meant he would,
Yeah.
if he kept his grades up, he'd get directly into dental school. So he had to write a letter as to why he thought he should get in and why did he want to be a dentist. And I, of course, didn't see this till after he graduated. Um, and his notes said that he saw what I was doing, and I would be in the midst of something, we'd get a phone call, and I would drop it and take care of the patient. And he thought that was a noble thing. And so I think in his case, that probably maybe subconsciously over the years showed him that it was something rewarding to do.
Hmm.
Um, you know, so
Awesome. And I assume that every day you show up to work and you're working with your son has got to be have an element of pride. Just being side by side with them.
it is. In fact, I've been asked many times because 72 years old, why are you still working? And I said, well, I get to see my son every day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the patients are an important part of it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you have built relationships. It's kind of hard to say, okay, I'm not coming in anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, the big thing is my son's here, and if my son was not part of the practice, I'd probably look at transitioning it differently. You know,
Sure, sure. And obviously the legacy moves on, right, with your son, and maybe one day we'll get him on here too. But I assume he's obviously taken over the pride of Germino's dental practice and keep expanding and making families happy.
yeah, and he also brings a different skill set. Okay,
Oh, mhm.
I've never enjoyed doing extractions, for instance, and I certainly didn't do I don't do implants. I
Right.
restore them, but I don't place them. His skill set is, he doesn't do every extraction, but he's much more inclined to do them than I. He also does most of the implant placements in the office. So, yeah, so we have different skill sets.
Yeah, it sounds like a good team, good effort, and it sounds like even your staff as well. There's three dentists now, and then you got the hygienist and the front office, and I would highly encourage anybody that's listening to this to stop by if you're in the south side of Chicago near Orland Park. Definitely check out the Germino Dental Practice. If somebody wanted to reach out and further the conversation with you on any of the topics that we had talked about, or would like to check you out as a new patient, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, we have a couple different ways. One is obviously the phone,
Mhm.
which is 708 349 3443. And then we have a email, germinodental@gmail.com. The only thing I wanted to do before we leave is I want to give a shout out to my staff. My
Sure,
staff is,
go ahead.
most of them have been here for over 30 years, you know, and when they retire, we have to find another new staff member. But the staff has been extremely loyal and hardworking, and nothing is possible without them. So I just wanted to give a plug to.
Oh, well, definitely, and it says a lot if they've been there that long, and the patients that come in get to see the same familiar faces, the same smiles, and I think that is very warming when people are getting dental care for their family.
Yeah, you kind of hit it on the head. There's a comfort level. You know, like you put on an old pair of shoes, they feel a little different than the new ones. So
Yes. Yeah, for sure. For sure. But I highly encourage go check out the staff, stop by the office, give them a call, and further your dental care. I really appreciate your time with this, Dr. Tom,
thank you.
and maybe we'll have you guys back on and we'll talk about some updates that your practice is working on.
Anything you'd like. Thank you
All right.
again.
Thank you.
Bye bye.